Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have about 150 people that have registered for the webinar. My guess, oh my God, it's crazy. All these people want to watch us in recordings, which I understand. I appreciate that. But you guys are special. And what I mean by that is thank you for showing up live. And so what I want you to do is please move your mouse, go back to the bottom of your screen, the green share button, go over to the left side. Please open the chat box, type in where you are from. We love to hear where you're from. And this is where you can type in questions. Okay, this is your webinar. This is the advantage for you guys showing up. It is only 45 minutes. A lot of webinars out there are an hour. We're going to keep them short and sweet. Oh, look, Denville, New Jersey, California, Florida, Pennsylvania. Thank you guys for joining us. We're getting people from all over the country, DC, Hawaii, Luann from Iowa. Hello, Mary Beth. This is great. So I've got some great people here with us. I actually had a wonderful call earlier this week with Lejeune. Demetreous is a new presenter for us. We're really excited to have him with us. And we've got a good friend of mine, Kim Miller, who actually has personally helped my family with a lot of her holistic recommendations. Unfortunately, we were expecting Melissa Lane. She is sick. We don't think it's related to gut health, but she is ill. So unfortunately, she can't make it tonight, but she will be with us for our Nutrition Coaching Summit. Kim Miller is the CEO of Garcia Institute of Modern Excellence and Healing with Excellence. That's her focus. She also has training programs that she works with fitness professionals and all sorts of health coaching professionals. She's got 20 years of experience in the health and fitness industry, and she specializes not only in educating, but also motivating individuals to become their best self. We've got Demetreous Hill. He's got a master's degree, and he's a professor in Southern California teaching health sciences, physical education, and business communication. And I believe he's doing a careers program this fall, which is kind of cool. He holds a BA in history, which we think is very valuable, or at least I kind of made fun of. Sorry about that. But he's got a master's in healthcare and an exercise science certification by the Cooper Institute in Dallas, Texas. And we've also got with us today Lejeune Singleton. She's a board certified health and wellness coach, mindset strategist, nutritional lifestyle coach. She's a personal trainer, a podcaster. She specializes in working with women and girls in the area of obesity and chronic illness, mindset, nutrition, injury recovery, you name it. And I think she's recommending things people can do. I'm Sara Kooperman. I always forget to introduce myself. I'm the CEO of SCW. I'm just here facilitating. Demetrius was kind enough to send me an article yesterday, which of course I printed out and I, pardon the pun, digested readily. And I really enjoyed it to look at what is gut health and the brain connection. And so, Demetrius, I'm going to start with you and I'm going to say, can you please just give us kind of this quick overview of gut health and also the brain connection?
Well, we first understand what the gut is, and that would be, it starts with the mouth and it goes to the esophagus, and that esophagus, it sends the food that you chew up very well down to your stomach and then to your small intestine and then to your large intestine and out to the universe. A healthy gut is a gut that has a very diversified diet, many different foods all the time. And through this nice diversified intake, you're going to accrue a lot of good gut bacteria and also some bad gut bacteria. And so what we're striving to do overall is to have a gut that has high performance, and a gut that is going to fight against infections, and a gut that is going to serve you well as far as having low stress and digest your food very well.
And what I also liked what you explained earlier before we turned the camera on, you talked about the immune system and how it was so important for us to build our immune system. And I personally always think about food as fuel. So how do I build my immune system to fight off bacteria, viruses, and actually assist with recovery?
So for our immune system, we need certain elements, certain substances. And so one could be something called IPA, and IPA is found in foods such as sauerkraut and fermented foods. And the IPA stands for endopropionic acid. And when you ingest these types of foods, you will get something called an antioxidant. And the antioxidant is going to fight against these free radicals, and those free radicals are responsible for causing infections in the body. So if you decide to go in that direction, that would behoove you and your gut health. However, if you choose not to go in that direction, then you may be vulnerable. So choose wisely. Ooh.
Hey, Sarah, you're muted.
Lost your sound, yeah.
Sorry, I muted because I thought my son is doing his foam rolling and I can hear this humming. I apologize for that. So, Kim, you recommend not just proper eating, you know, all exercise regimes, stress management, things like that. But in focusing on a healthy gut, what are some of the recommendations that you give to your clients?
Yeah, well, it's really important for your stress levels because, you know, you have your vagus nerve in your neck, which actually controls your absorption, your intrinsic factor to be able to even absorb nutrients like B12 that help keep you healthy and help your mental health. So if your stress levels are too high or you're overtraining, under eating, not consuming enough antioxidants to fight off the free radicals, that's going to impact your gut health, which in turn is going to impact everything else, every organ system in the body.
So it's incredibly important, obviously.
Yes.
And when Demetreous recommended and talked about the fermented foods, what type of fermented foods are those that you might recommend for your clients to help with proper gut health?
For me or Demetrius?
For you.
I like kimchi. So I have some phenomenal, amazing Korean clients that have filled me in on all this. And I really just love getting a good quality kimchi. I'm not as gifted as making fermented foods myself. So I go to the other people like the store, the Whole Foods or something to that effect. And I'll get an organic version of kimchi.
My son actually learned how to make kimchi. But another interesting thing that we heard before we turned the camera on is Lejeune, you know, everybody told her kimchi, you know, fermented foods, you know, apple cider vinegar, etc. And she's got a sensitivity. So Lejeune, how did you manage that? How did you deal with this sensitivity, but still keep proper gut health?
So how I found out about the sensitivity, I did a food sensitivity test with Everly Well, and that's how I found out about it. So basically eating fresh fruits and vegetables, definitely fruits that's less in sugar, such as your berries, your avocados, those like that. It doesn't really affect your gut health as much because you know how we love to eat grapes and we pop them like it's popcorn. Not really a good thing because it's high in sugar. It's healthy, but it's high in sugar. Spinach is another one. Kale is another one. So either making smoothies, juicing it, celery, things like that is the way that I found to help my gut health.
And okay, now this may sound a little odd, but how can you tell if you have a food sensitivity?
The only way I knew was by taking a food sensitivity test because I didn't know. I was, you know, like Demetrius suggested, I was having issues with my stomach. Kimberly talked about stress. I had high stress levels. So I was suffering from gastritis. So I was trying to find anything that helped and it wasn't helping. I noticed that I was bloated, things like that, that wasn't helping. After I did the test and I cut out everything, it definitely helped.
Yeah, you can tell when things aren't right. You have gas, you have bloating
Right,
in your stomach, you get a little bit of cramping,
right,
maybe you get constipated, maybe you're get a little bit of going the other way.
right.
So knowing these sensitivities and staying healthy with it. What diets best promote a healthy gut? Demetrious, can you share with us some of the things we should be eating and maybe some of the things we might want to be avoiding?
Well, we know that there are certain diets, for example, the ketogenic diet is very popular these days. This is a diet that focuses on using the fat as a fuel as opposed to the carbohydrates. So you would leave out a lot of the sugars. And we know that we have the paleo diet. The paleo diet has to do with you eating grains and minimizing the dairy. I like to focus more on, instead of using the word diet though, Sarah, I would like to definitely focus on more of the whole foods and focus on specific foods. So for instance, a diet or a manner of eating would include something like tryptophan. We know about tryptophan. Tryptophan is found in eggs and turkey and chia seeds. And this tryptophan offers us certain things such as serotonin and melatonin. So when you think in those terms, then you won't necessarily be confined to a diet, you know. And then regarding the serotonin and the melatonin, we know that if you are interested in being happy and igniting your system with some happy foods, and you're going to grab that tryptophan, and also the melatonin is going to give you a nice sleep. So what I do sometimes is and not sometimes, I actually do it a lot, probably more than I should. I take a handful of cashews, which has that nice melatonin in them, and I take those right before I go to bed, and boy, I get a good night's sleep, and I'm not kidding you.
Well, that's a great thing. Kim, you were nodding your head. Please share.
Well, I was just really, again, I look at diet as your habitual form of nourishment. And so what we decide to habitually nourish ourselves with is going to determine much of how our gut health is. And, he's recommending pretty much all whole foods. There's so many different diets out there. And for me, if we just reduce man-made food as much as possible and eat those whole real foods from the earth that are loaded with micronutrients and enzymes to help sustain our gut health, it just keeps it simpler where we're not having to overthink it and feel neurotic about our food, and not having to overthink how we eat also helps gut health.
So, yeah, because you're not stressing out about what you're eating.
Yes, I used to be a chronic dieter and I had chronic irritable bowel syndrome and would actually go 7 days without having a bowel movement. And no physician could figure it out because it looked like I was eating healthy because I was a fitness trainer, eating well, my scale weight was good, but it was really actually coming from chronic dieting and being very restrictive and overtraining. And so I had no idea back then how that impacted my gut health and slowed motility. It was pretty profound.
And Kim, you also are not afraid of eating red meat, grass-fed, organic meat. Yes?
Right. Yeah. Someone just asked that question. So I said yes.
Right in the chat box. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, I had actually cut all red meat out of my diet when I was having health issues. And my grandmother at the time was 70, and my great grandparents lived into their late 80s and 90s. And my grandmother was still eating her red meat and her butter and potato. I'm like, how is she still alive? And so I started just studying more cell biology and micronutrients. And I found out that grass-fed red meat is very high and, are the healthy fats that we need, but also alpha lipoic acid, L-carnitine, carnosine, B12, iron, and I was always anemic. So I really needed the red meat to help with the function of my body. It just wasn't the, ones from the feedlot. I really do much better with eating quality grass-fed meat. It's just portion and stuff like that.
All right, I'm going to do a little counterpoint, because, you know, there's no rules here.
I know.
Lejeune, what are your thoughts on red meat? Because we were also talking about barbecue season.
Right.
And I did read in this wonderful article that Demetrius sent me, so of course I ate it up, pardon the pun, and it said you really should avoid charcoaled foods. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, that's like, I hate to say it, but I love the burnt stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, and I think Lejeune, you mentioned some things.
Yeah, I personally don't eat red meat. Doctors have told me, and I read an article, it takes longer to digest in your system, so I definitely cut it out. As far as barbecuing, as we all know, when we use the charcoal, we just recycle the charcoal basically, because it gives that rich flavor to what you're grilling. But the juices from that comes back up into what you're cooking, which is cancerous. So that's one of the things that, you know, people have to be cautious of. And charcoal can be kind of pricey, and nobody wants to throw it out because they like that flavor.
So that's like one of the things you've chosen to do. How did you shift your diet?
So basically, I do eat turkey. I do eat seafood, and those are the only meats that I eat. So basically, everything else is fruits and vegetables. It's a mindset. Is once I got my results back from Everly Well, chicken was on there, and I used to be a huge chicken lover. I totally cut off everything that was on there, and it was a challenge. You know, a lot of my friends were like, "You're giving up chicken. You're giving up pineapple, you're giving up mushrooms, you're giving up this, and this." And I was like, yeah, if it benefits my health, yes, it's a lifestyle change.
And it's hard to make that mindset shift. Do you think this is these choices are particular to your unique situation with being almost, I'm going to say allergic, even though you didn't use that term, sensitive to some of the fermented foods? Or are you avoiding nightshade vegetables, or what are some of the decisions you're making based upon?
So my decision was based on, I noticed the foods you can slowly incorporate it back into your diet to see how your body responds to it. And I did that, and I noticed, because the way we eat, we don't really pay attention to how we eat. We eat all our foods together. So are you really paying attention to what's causing the face breakout, what's causing you to be bloated? We're not. We're just enjoying food. So I noticed when I slowly started to incorporate it back into my diet, it was causing acne, it was causing bloating, it was causing inflammation and swelling in my hands and my ankle and my calf. And I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do, because we all know inflammation leads to chronic diseases. I don't have any health issues, and I want to keep it that way. So that was one of the major decisions that I made for me.
Oh, that's interesting. And Demetrius, if we're looking, like we're looking, let's say, at probiotics, are those beneficial for our systems? Is what Lejeune's saying, you know, again, to kind of think that counterpoint thing, is this applicable to everyone, or maybe this is her particular sensitivities?
This is going to be a matter of either one, taking the assessment, as Lejeune mentioned before, and being proactive about the situation, or reacting after you find that you have an adverse reaction after having a meal. So this is a good question. You know, with regards to choices and the meat choice and so forth, you can get your amino acids and you can get your complete proteins in different ways without necessarily taking in that meat. For example, you can take nice nutritional yeast, and this nutritional yeast is going to give you major benefits. It's something that I take daily. The nutritional yeast is going to be a complete protein. It's going to be fiber. It's going to have the B12s in it. So there's one source of protein, and this is going to bypass any cholesterol concerns that you might have. Unfortunately, I'm predisposed to a high cholesterol. So this pushes me in the direction of eating more fish and less meats.
And that's interesting because I think what we're hearing here is we've got to check for our own sensitivities. You've got to pay attention to your body, pay attention to your gut health, how you feel, how you're digesting. I am interested in, I'm seeing some stuff go on in the chat box. Kim, can you share with us with some of the food sensitivities based on stress levels and micronutrients and the like?
Yes. So when I refer back to that time, 10 to 20 years ago, various things going on, because I was overtraining, under eating, and very high stress, I was sensitive to everything. Everything was inflaming me. So if I would have done any test, everything would have shown off the charts. And so I used to not be able to eat dairy and various things without getting inflamed. But when I started managing my stress differently, changing my training program, and ensuring I got enough calories coming in to operate the organ systems effectively, all of those sensitivities went away. So your body can evolve.
So, and it evolves as you age, different hormone levels. How do you find hormone levels affect, we know it affects stress levels, but how would it affect your gut health?
Well, it's funny. Often the gut health is impacting the hormone levels. So if somebody goes too long without eating, or they're cutting out whole food groups, that can change and create like estrogen dominance, and create where they're low in progesterone or testosterone and things of that effect. So really, if I was looking at balancing hormones, I would actually look at balancing gut health, and that would help with your hormones.
All right, now I'm going to ask you, Demetreous, I'm going to go back to you. What do you think about salmon and fish and the omega-3s? This was a great question by Leslie.
There are great choices. And if we relate it to this conversation and gut health, specifically, you're going to get your vitamin A and vitamin Ds through your fish. And that, in particular, what happens as a result is you're going to fight against what's called leaky gut. And this leaky gut is a problem because we are deficient in the A's and the D's. And when you're deficient, your epithelial cells that are located in your gut are going to have fissures, and you're going to start leaking toxins into your system. So I think there's motivation because of the taste, but there's a motivation also because of the benefit of what you're getting when you eat those kind of things.
Interesting. Lejeune, what are your thoughts on fish?
I think fish is really good. The only thing that is a concern, of course, is it can be high in mercury. So most people who are Presbyterian, that's what they're eating every day. So that's something to be mindful of. And I think we kind of get out of the mindset of eating foods in moderation. We just get so focused and caught up on, okay, I'm eating fish, it's healthy, it's healthy, it's healthy. It's good for balancing cholesterol, but it's also high in mercury, which is a health risk. So just being mindful and eating foods in moderation, something to consider.
Now, I'm going to ask you guys, like, how do we, there's a lot of people that, they get depressed. We've been going through this horrible pandemic. We're dealing with stress. A lot of people have their kids home and they're homeschooling, and then they're trying to keep their work going, and they're rushing through making meals and things like that. How do people process their emotions? And I'm going to say without the use of food. It's not necessarily that everybody overeats. Sometimes people just get obsessed with one way of eating. So there is this gut health brain connection. Lejeune, you specialize in working with women and girls in the areas of obesity. What is your focus? How do you deal with this?
So the focus is what's going on, the past, because we do hold on to our past. We don't know how to let that go. And that's how most people get stuck in the obesity range. They try to diet, they try to exercise, and then they go back to the same results. Foods that they eat, like you and I talked about earlier, finding comfort in foods, finding comfort in alcohol, trying to balance their stress level. They're working a job they hate, but the money is great. They don't want to quit. They got bills to pay. They got kids to take care of. And that stress level is high. So working with them on balancing the stress, working with them on letting go of the past, working with them on learning to love themselves to move forward. Just having a mindset of self-care for themselves, because we as women, we're hard on ourselves. We put everybody first except for ourselves. So learning how to pour into yourself so you can start pouring into other people. So that's important.
Really nice. Kimberly, do you deal with a lot of people on this level?
Oh yeah, hundreds. Yeah, definitely. It's huge. I mean, the two fastest growing clinics in the United States is gastrointestinal offices, GI docs, and fertility clinics. And so it's all,
I think one leads to the other, right? We were talking about teenage girls. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. Yeah. And with food, in just relationship to how we eat based on our mood, that is the biggest thing. If we pay attention to what we eat, it actually reduces the physiological response to overeat or to get depressed more often and want to turn to food. Because if we do ingest foods that help keep our gut health well, and we have enough B12, B6, B3, all these vitamins that help sustain our mood, or like the amino acids that help produce the neurotransmitters in the brain, that helps prevent you from turning to food when you're feeling depressed, down, sluggish, or it actually helps prevent the depression, the sluggishness, all that good stuff.
And that does help with your your emotional well-being. And it's interesting, as fitness professionals, we start talking about nutrition, and we start talking to our clients about stress and sleep. And you guys know I'm a lawyer, and I get really a little bit scared about overstepping my bounds. I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a licensed dietitian or a registered dietitian. How far do I go? I know, Demetreous, you've led classes at USD on leadership and career choices. What do you think about that? How do we tell these wonderful fitness professionals that obviously we all care deeply about taking care of people, but how do we stay in our lane, so to speak?
The main thing I think is keeping your practice client-centered. And so I would say definitely practice within the scope of your credentials, as you mentioned, and then also maybe getting more credentials so that you're able to expand on your practice. My co-panelists here have some great credentials, and I appreciate the fact that they're dealing with specialized populations, and that's because they sought that training. So our trainers at SCW and beyond should think about expanding their horizons with regards to training. And with regards to the topic, the stress management, if I had a client and I was a trainer that didn't know where to go or what to suggest to my client, I would definitely recommend to the client to build their network and their support network, and also invest in a nice stress management toolbox. And so that toolbox would include, and you're gonna laugh, but something like taking a boxing class or taking a drumming class, because that reduces stress, and then also some yoga. And then, as we know, that if you practice breathing religiously, then that is going to affect the parasympathetic system, and that's going to reduce your stress as well. So as a trainer, you can move the clients in that direction, and then also suggest that they build their support system.
And I do like Leslie just commented, she said the paradigm of eating well is a family issue. You look at the kids, and if these kids are obese, I bet those parents are obese, and it's the way the whole family eats. And you can't go it alone in your household. I believe that there's sabotage let's see if I can pronounce this correctly, saboteurs or champions of lifestyle and eating. How do you navigate? Because sometimes in our households, we're these weird fitness people, okay? Like, why do you wake up in the morning and know when you're going to work out? And I'm not a real believer in fitness as a lifestyle. I'm a believer in fitness needs to fit into your life, and that'll make it, less scary, and you'll have more of a consistent involvement in it. But that's the same perspective we need to take for food. So, Kim, how do you consult with people to make sure that they're staying on this track of health, even though there might be people around them that are sabotaging them?
Yeah, that is very difficult. As most of us know, anytime we're trying to better ourselves, there tends to be these various obstacles that come up to try to sabotage us. The biggest thing is kind of what you guys have said a few times, food being fuel. The more someone understands about how their body works, just like if they understand how their car works or that their dog needs a specific food to be healthy, the more they understand what's in it for them and how the food that might be put in front of them or alcohol that could sabotage them, the more they understand how that could impact their gut health or their immune system, the easier it gets to be the lone wolf in your household and the leader. And you know that a lot of people will try to pull you to the dark side or judge you or pick at you initially, but as you stay that lone wolf or that leader, and then you see the results, and then everybody in the house is like, oh, what are you doing? How are you doing it? But it is very difficult to be the first one in the family to lead the pack. So it's just continuing to educate the person with information that arms them with knowledge. And then when they do make a slight mistake, teaching them how not to beat themselves up, because we're human. None of us are going to eat perfect 100% of the time. But how do we recover immediately on that next meal? Or how do we not mentally beat ourselves up to create this chain effect of, just throwing in the towel?
And LeJune, you seem to be an expert on this because you're dealing with women and kids that are trying to change their lifestyle. What are some of the things that you've seen?
When I'm dealing with girls, it's definitely a challenge because the parents are the ones that are buying the groceries for the household. The parents are the ones that's picking them up from school, after school activities or recreational activities. They're stopping by McDonald's or whatever fast food restaurant. And I've had to explain to them, working out is great, but if you're still incorporating the foods that they're eating and you're still cooking badly, it takes away from the benefit of what you're paying me for. So I've offered doing an overhaul of the kitchen, looking at ingredients, going to the grocery store, we grocery shop, we make smoothies together, we make healthy meals or give healthy meal ideals, things like that. That's a challenge, especially working with kids, because as Kim said, it's the household, it's the parents. Women can be challenging because, most of it is stress from work, stress from being a busy mom, stress from being a wife, trying to balance that, trying to find comfort. Some of my clients, their go-to has been drinking wine to, mellow down, and alcohol is a major issue with the gut as well. So helping them to understand, finding positive outlooks of either journaling, as Demetreous said, boxing, meditation, breathing, taking that time, taking a walk, taking that time for themselves, and just to debrief. I think those things are important.
Yeah. Which is great. Like during the pandemic, there was a thing called the wine fairy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like they would there was someone in the neighborhood and they would deliver wine to whoever was going through something, at that time in their life. And I know red wine can be an antioxidant, but it's like have half a glass. Don't,
right.
For me, it would be like a beer mug, right? That's not exactly the healthiest thing to do. And Nanette asked, Can you recommend a good book to educate ourselves on better food choices? I think Demetrious, have you written something on this topic?
Thank you very much, but no.
No?
But I can suggest, there are a lot of great resources out there. Definitely want to start with the National Institute of Health. So you can easily Google search that and look up some nice information. You can look up UC Davis. I graduated school in Northern California, and I always use them as a resource. Dr. Erica Abel, she is a gut health expert, also a very reputable resource. And just the main thing is to educate yourself, and then have a goal and take action. That's what's happening.
And you know what I'm going to do is I thought the article, it's called What is Gut Health and Why is it Important? I'm going to just show it just a little bit. I printed it out. We'll put the link to this in when we send out the recording tomorrow. We'll put the link to it in right below the recording so that you guys can get that. And we'll look, Demetrious, could you again repeat the author, because Mike Lieber could, he's our wonderful cinematographer. He's helping with our webinar tonight.
No, you're out to look at that author on there, Sarah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's Dr. T.
Yeah, Dr. Tejaswi.
Yes.
Tejaswi?
That's why I didn't say the name. I didn't want to mess up that name. Yeah.
Dr. T. We'll call him
Dr. T. That's what I call him.
I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you see his name up there? Yeah, you can see him right there. All right, but we will include this article, and then you can look it up, because he did write another book that I started Googling and looking up as well. Kim, do you have any other suggestions for reading material for folks?
Yeah, something that really helped me when I was doing primarily fitness training, there was a book, it's called World's Healthiest Foods. I know the gentleman, it's George something, I don't know how to say his last name, but if you research it, they have a website, worldshealthiestfoods.com, and it actually explains the cell right from the beginning and what it needs, and then offers a lot of good ideas. But another physician that I've studied under, Dr. Zach Bush, he is like one of the top experts also on gut health. He's triple board certified, and he is one of the best presenters I've ever seen. He's just fun to listen to. So Dr. Zach Bush, and then the book World's Healthiest Foods. I think they'll enjoy that a lot.
Great. We'll look for that, and we'll make sure to put those in. And LaJune, do you have any other recommendations?
Definitely. I definitely look up information. I research a lot. So the Mayo Clinic, I research on there, Harvard. I also look on YouTube as well. YouTube and Netflix have like some great documentation on different health. So those are to go to if you're not a big reader. Definitely, it's videos out there you can definitely take advantage of.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, we'll make sure we're going to include that. Just for 1 second, guys, I'm going to share with you a video, because we have an upcoming convention. This is our nutrition coaching summit that we're doing June 19th. And we have some of these wonderful presenters with us. You can see some of our presenters. You can download the Ink Saver brochure. And then I'll just show you a quick video. What I really like about this is Kim knows this. She knows that I never used to cook. You're going to die. I cook like dinner like every night. It's been the best thing about this pandemic is I've started cooking. I try to learn as much as I can. but I don't have that degree. We do have a wonderful certification with Melissa Lane that is on nutrition and hormones. That's going to be a pre-convention certification on Friday. And then we have an active aging nutrition certification with Tricia Silverman. So I'm enjoying learning about this. You guys have been really fantastic because I did not have the background in gut health. I'm going to start with you, Lejeune, and I'm going to let you share with our listeners what would be your focus for your primary focus that you think would be to make the most out of that gut health brain connection.
Definitely working on your stress level, your emotions. That is definitely the hugest impact of gut health. I'm a prime example of that because I was stressed, I was worry, frustration, things like that. It definitely took a toll. IBS, gastritis, things like that. Learning how to take control of your emotion is definitely one of the major steps. The second one is what you're eating. And the saying, you are what you eat, that is so accurate. You are. What you put in your body affects your overall health. Being mindful of those things. Not just eating just for comfort, but eating for nourishment. So those are the things, the combination of gut health and your mindset is definitely, the brain is connected. Once, if you're constipated, first thing happens is what? You get a headache, you're moody. So those are the things to be mindful of.
That's great, thank you. And Demetrious?
I completely agree with Lejeune that you are what you eat. And so when you're eating, I would suggest and recommend is to make sure that you, as we've heard before, chew your food very well until it's a nice digestible pasty form so that the enzymes are activated and then the food will go down well and digest well. And then on top of that, make sure that you eat water-soluble foods that allow for that food to move through with ease and not leave much behind, and so that all the nutrients are absorbed in that large intestine. And then also that exercise is not only going to relieve the stress, but that exercise is going to contribute to that peristaltic contraction that moves the food through. So for example, if you can get in some oblique crunches or you can get in some rotational stretches, that is going to create that peristaltic contraction and it's going to move that food through so you're ready to eat more.
I like that. I like eating more. And Kim?
For me, and something that goes along with what you talked about with scope of practice, when, especially for a lot of the fitness trainers on the call, we may not know what our client's eating, if they're eating enough, because we're just focused on giving them that good workout sometimes, especially if they're coming to group fitness. Something that's really good to direct your clients to where they can research on their own is to discover what their basal metabolic rate is plus activity needs. So BMR, as many of you know, the basal metabolic rate plus activity, because what happens is your 11 organ systems need calories to work effectively. We all know calories are units of energy. So if you direct your clients to look up what their basal metabolic rate is and ensure they're consuming enough energy, they may have to use like a MyFitnessPal or some kind of online tool to see where they're at. If they don't have enough energy coming in, sometimes that's a good thing, like it's helping with fat loss. But if it's too low, it'll actually slow down the motility of their gut. That's actually what I was doing to myself. My body needed like 2,000 calories a day, and I was only eating like 1,200 because I was eating so clean. And so the gut motility slowed down. So for me, make sure your clients know what basal metabolic rate is and how much they need for their activity. And also just tell them if they fill up those calories with whole foods from the earth, and like what each person has said here with a variety, they're more likely to succeed, again, without being neurotic and without most people on this call stepping out of their scope of practice.
I really like that. I like the combination of without being neurotic.
Yes.
And
yeah,
of course,
neurotic. Yeah.
yeah, and then of course I love that personally, and then professionally I like without stepping out, overstepping your scope of practice. Well, you guys have been wonderful. This has been really terrific. I want to thank Mike Leeper for running this, and I want to thank you all for joining us. And we will see you next Tuesday. Let me look this up. And we have another webinar coming up on Tuesday, which is going to be Nourish to Flourish. So we're going to talk some more about nutrition. So I'll see you all next Tuesday. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, guys.